In this world, society's not like it used to be. Now everyone's a tiny worker living inside this gigantic meat suit, aka human, keeping it ticking. We got the red shirts, zipping around like oxygen delivery dudes, keeping all the organs pumping. Then there's the white blood crew, these badass bouncers who smash any invaders. Black T cells, top secret assassins, taking out any cell infected with some funky virus. Pink macrophages, cleaning up the whole mess like kindergarten teachers with mop buckets. And finally, the platelet posse, little rascals patching up any leaky pipes. Our story follows Johnny, a newbie red shirt fresh out of training. His first gig? Hauling oxygen like a pizza boy, keeping everything fueled up. He gets a fancy video tutorial, memorizing cells, organs, paths, the whole shebang. But then, bam, first delivery, belly bound, and Johnny's already lost in the tubes. The big cheese of the stomach cell sector lays into him, but Johnny spills the beans about the outdated video. Turns out, this body's seen better days. Overworked, sleep-deprived, fueled by greasy burgers and sugary sodas. Everyone's drowning in work. Johnny gets through his first run, then bumps into Chad, a seasoned red shirt who takes him under his wing. They're delivering to the brain HQ when bam! Toxic fumes leak out, turning good red cells into zombie creeps. Suddenly, this giant germ named pneumonia-coccus barges in, ready to eat everyone for lunch. But just in time, Sasha the Slayer swoops in, slicing and dicing that bacteria before it can munch Chad and Johnny. Woo! Chad tells John to take another route while he heroically finishes delivering oxygen to the brain HQ. John wants to follow, but Sasha the Slayer pulls him back. They head to the Lungsville, figuring the toxic fumes must be coming from there. They gag at the sight. The place is filthy with tar. A cell tells them the body smoked again after a whole decade of quitting. Talk about a relapse. John's third delivery takes him to Mouthtown, where everything's on fire. Bacteria goons swarm the place, but Sasha and her crew show up just in time to kick their butts. John thanks them, but then bam, flood alert. Someone decided to gargle mouthwash like a maniac, nearly drowning everyone. They barely survive the chaos. Back at HQ, things get messy again. The sprinklers go nuts, spraying everyone with alcohol. A veteran red shirt named Rusty takes the newbies, including John, to the liver lounge for some detox. Inside, it's a party. Cells called hepatocytes are serving up special drinks to break down the booze. John looks around, everyone's having a good time, but he feels bummed. He can't forget Chad's sacrifice. Why should he risk his life for organ cells who just chill and party? Rusty sees John freaking out and splashes some detox juice on his face. He then takes him backstage, where they see hepatocytes working their butts off too, leading to liver failure. The party's over. Rusty, after a lifetime of hard work, passes away. His nutrients get recycled in a new cup, circle of life and all that. John apologizes to the hostess for his outburst. She understands, even gives him a kiss before he leaves. Just then, a major announcement from Brain HQ. Red shirts, it's go time. We need you to deliver the goods to the Pleasure District and get this human breeding. John's pumped about the chance to help create a new life. He and his crew head to Downtown Downstairs, the male reproductive area, for their new gig. Sasha, the badass slayer, shows him the ropes. They meet the nutty cells who take care of the sperm-making guys. Then John heads back to duty. He starts spreading oxygen through the tunnels, but the body's stressed out. No boom boom for anyone. Some red shirts get squished, but things get back on track after a magical medicine called Viagra helps the body rise to the occasion. John and his crew resume their mission, but the celebration's short-lived. Sasha arrives with bad news. They lost the fight. A nasty STD called the clap infected the body, and the white blood cells are struggling to keep up. They regroup at a lymph node, where the captain reveals the clap can't be cured naturally. Talk about a bummer. On his next delivery, John sees his co-workers ranting about the white blood cells slacking off. He defends them, saying they're doing their best, and convinces the crew to keep going. They head to the lower body, but things get ugly. They trip over a dead white blood cell, then get ambushed by the clap bacteria. Just when they're about to be toast, a white blood cell jumps in and saves them, collapsing from exhaustion. Even though it's dangerous, the red blood cells press on. They find a group of white blood cells captured by the bacteria. The clap tries to lure them over, promising a life without the white blood cell bullies, but the white blood cells refuse. The bacteria gets mad and attacks them. John, witnessing their bravery, realizes how much he relies on the white blood cells to keep the blood pathways safe. Suddenly, a bright light shines down, zapping the gonokochi like bugs under a magnifying glass. The body took its medicine, penicillin, giving the white blood cells a major power-up. They kicked those bacteria's butts, curing the body's nasty STD. After all that drama, John finally feels good about his job. He's delivering oxygen to the hair HQ, where he bumps into Sasha. She's still rocking a battle scar from the gonokochi fight, but she's tough as nails, working out like nothing happened. They chat, and Sasha thanks John for saving her life by distracting the bacteria. But then, a grumpy killer T-cell walks by, giving Sasha some serious sass. He blames white blood cells for making his job harder, like a cranky delivery driver complaining about traffic. John shrugs it off and continues his delivery. He discovers the hair follicles are inflamed. The body's been stressing so much, one of the T-cells went rogue, thinking the hair cells are evil villains and attacking them like a barber on a rampage. This is causing the body to lose its locks, heading towards a full-blown bald spot. John gathers his red blood cell crew, carrying oxygen like firefighters with hoses, trying to keep the hair cells alive. But things go haywire. The crazy T-cell sends out cytokine signals, making the other killer T-cells even crazier, wrecking everything in sight. Suddenly, giant steroid battle droids appear, barely holding back the chaos. John's oxygen plan saves the hair roots for now, but he starts questioning why he even bothers working so hard in this crazy body. Later, John and Ken head to the kidney spa for a cleanup after a messy delivery. But the harsh truth hits them like a cold shower. The body's weak, and the kidneys are just as stressed as everyone else. The boss, Gran, is a tough cookie though. She won't let them rest or complain, saying kidneys are like silent heroes, gotta work without whining. But the body's condition keeps getting worse. The guys are back on delivery duty when they run into a real bad deal. A rogue kidney stone smaller than your pinky nail. It tears through the pipe, taking out a bunch of red shirts in the process. Boom! In comes the stone crusher, a tube shoved through the plumbing to smash that rock to bits. Problem solved, right? Not so fast. Turns out, this fancy tube opened the door for some nasty bacteria called acute kidney creeps. These guys ain't messing around. They can jump into the bloodstream and wreak havoc. John tells the kidney filters, the glomeruli, to skedaddle while the white blood cells hold the fort. But the boss, Gran, says they gotta stay and keep working. Talk about tough. Then, bam, a giant germ monster shows up, ready to squish a glomeruli like a bug. But Gran steps up, taking the hit to save the little filter and gives Sasha a chance to blast the beast. Gran goes down a hero, apologizing for the workload, but saying their job is vital for keeping the body running. The body then whips out some antibiotic ammo, weakening the creeps and letting the white blood cells finish them off. John and Ken's next job takes them on a wild ride to the lower body. Johnny and Ken climb the stairs to Sebaceous Gland HQ, a greasy joint that needed some serious TLC. Johnny, ever the sunshine in a blood bag, offered to help carry Ken's delivery boxes. But Ken insisted he could handle it alone. Maybe the fumes from the factory were getting to him. Suddenly, boom, an oxygen canister went rogue, spewing bad air that knocked out a bunch of red shirts. Then they reached the grungy sebaceous gland, where an old cell prepped for retirement. He tipped his greasy hat to Johnny and Ken, thanking them for keeping the body fueled. "Now me," he chuckled. "I might not look like much, but my job's a doozy." He explained that his final act was to burst open, releasing a natural oil that kept the body from turning into a desert. Ken and Johnny were speechless. He was gonna self-destruct to keep the body smooth? Crazy, but kinda heroic. The gland cell, cool as a cucumber, gave them a polite shoo away, saying he needed some me time before his grand exit. Then, poof, he exploded in a spray of oil like a greasy firework. But the oil mixed with some leftover oxygen, creating more of the bad air. The bad air stunk worse than a gym sock that's been living under the couch. It messed with the hair cell's oxygen, and Ken freaked out. He blamed himself, convinced he was cursed with bad deliveries. He tried to hide from everyone, but those 2 red blood cells wouldn't let him be. They swore they had a secret weapon to supercharge him, and Ken was desperate. So, he followed them to the small intestine, where a magic shower called the elixir rained down, turning him into a delivery powerhouse. Ken was a rocket on wheels, zipping packages across the whole body. Tired? Boom, elixir shower. Johnny warned him this juice would eventually drain him, but Ken wouldn't listen. The work was crazy stressful, and he needed that extra boost. But it all went south during a routine delivery. A hole opened up in the nose passage, a hungry wormhole sucking everything in. Johnny and Ken clung on for dear life, but the elixir after effects left Ken weak. He felt like giving up, not good enough to keep going. But Johnny wouldn't let him. "Everyone deserves a second chance, Ken," Johnny yelled. "You can fix this. It's not too late." Those words were the spark Ken needed. He dug deep, fueled by a brand new will to live. He pushed with everything he had, launching himself towards Johnny, who grabbed him just in time, pulling him back from the edge. They'd cheated death. They were just glad to be there together. Carbon monoxide and grape juice fumes were clogging the blood vessels like bad plumbing, making the red blood cells feel like couch potatoes after a marathon snack attack. An old-timer cell, wise as a sage, told Johnny and Ken to head to the liver for a detox, like a spa day to squeeze out the junk. But arriving at the liver was a real buzzkill. This once bubbly party organ was now a grimy swamp. The head liver cell, looking like she hadn't slept in years, apologized for not having any detox juice on tap. Worse, she warned them to be careful delivering oxygen to the legs. Johnny and Ken, ever the troopers, went to the leg duty anyway. Delivering the O2 was easy, but climbing back up was like scaling Mount Everest in flip-flops. The leg muscles, weakened by all the sugar and booze, weren't giving them any lift. They took a breather, feeling defeated, when 2 older cells showed up, taunting them about their struggles. Ken slunk away, remembering good times of bubble baths and caffeinated high fives, but Johnny told those jerks to buzz off and leave Ken alone. As Johnny and Ken cruised along, the ground suddenly went rogue. Boom! A crack opened up, and a rookie red blood cell tumbled in. Johnny and Ken were on it faster than a greased lightning bolt, but the pit was filled with a giant blood clot. Suddenly, the ugly senior cell with a Seuss smile snuck up and gave Johnny a boot to the backside. Johnny went flying into the clot, but quick as a wink, Ken snagged him with his nimble little arm. They were dangling over the edge. The ugly senior just chuckled and swaggered off, leaving them for dead. Just as Ken's grip was about to give way, Sasha swooped in like a superhero. She yanked them both up. Johnny thanked Sasha as he sat down to catch his breath and admire her massive watermelons. Sasha hustled them out of the pit, taking a detour to escape the leg zone. Suddenly, the ground went haywire. The Dark Lord whipped up a windstorm that sent that nasty blood clot flying straight at them. They dove into a side alley, a tiny capillary, just in time to dodge the squishy mess. Sasha explained this clot was bad news, like a rogue bowling ball that could wreck any organ it touched. The clot kept rolling, picking up fellow red shirts like bowling pins. It slammed into the lung entrance. Bam! Lungs shut down. Johnny and Ken dug into the wreckage, hoping to clear the clog. But turns out, those ugly senior cells were caught inside, banged up worse than a busted bingo table. The ugly one laughed out like a crazy person, announcing that the bogeyman was on his way and that everyone would perish. The lung cells were gasping for air, like a fish out of water. They choked and flopped, but Johnny, ever the quick thinker, remembered a secret note he'd stashed away. It mentioned a hidden tunnel, a back door into the clot itself. He led them through a squeeze box passage. They squished and wiggled, delivering oxygen like firefighters blasting a hose. Suddenly, Sasha and the others cheered. The clot was shrinking, deflating like a popped balloon. Johnny and his crew had done it. They squeezed back into the lungs, expecting to find a graveyard. But instead, the lung cells were giving them thumbs up. Johnny, the hero of the hour, got a big ol' handshake from Sasha, a pat on the back from the whole crew. But the party was on hold. The bogeyman was still out there. Days went by, and Sasha was starting to feel like a lone ranger. All the other white blood cells, poof, vanished. Johnny and his grumpy boss, Captain Capillary, finally arrived at the plot, as they called the guy's body. Johnny, ever the curious one, pointed out how things hadn't been exciting lately. Captain Capillary explained it. Think of the dude's veins as tight hallways. Over time, they get narrower, especially in the man cave. Johnny, with his eagle eyes, noticed the sperm apartments, empty as a ghost town. He met Miss Sertoli, the head honcho of the sperm department. Turns out, the dude's bad habits had messed things up. No more sperm production, no more moon trips to the lady's plot to make babies. Johnny was bummed, but hey, duty calls. Time for his morning oxygen deliveries. Within the bloodstream, Ken approached Johnny, noticing his downcast expression. Johnny confessed his concerns about the body's declining cell count. Suddenly, Sasha appeared from above, inquiring about the presence of other white blood cells. Their negative response confirmed her suspicions. Something was amiss. She informed them that a recent infection outbreak had claimed many white blood cells, leaving the body vulnerable. She advised caution and resumed her search in the lungs. Johnny and Ken observed a group of new recruits learning their roles as red blood cells. Two rookies, Adam and Brian, recognized Johnny from a distance and hurried to meet the renowned hero. Adam was thrilled to meet Johnny and requested his autograph, but Johnny offered a friendly handshake instead. The supervisor, noticing the rookies' admiration for Johnny, asked him to mentor them. As a first-time senior, Johnny was determined to set a good example. He even helped the rookies carry their heavy boxes in the city. Johnny attempted to ease the rookies' workload by handling all the deliveries, but the pressure was gradually wearing him down. The rookies were amazed at Johnny's endurance after their exhausting first delivery trip. However, Brian mistakenly omitted a receipt during delivery, and Johnny stepped in to deliver oxygen to the foot. Ken noticed Johnny taking on a lot of work and expressed his concern about Johnny overworking himself. He reminded Johnny of the harsh treatment they received from their own mentors. However, Johnny expressed his desire to be kinder to the newcomers. They were both taken aback by the deteriorated and dirty state of the foot. A group of ringworms was about to make them their next meal when Sasha intervened, killing one of them with her sword. She continued to fight off the ringworms, but they quickly overwhelmed her. Two of her students came to her aid, but they were still outnumbered. Just as they were about to be consumed by the ringworms, the foot was suddenly flooded, washing away the ringworms. Then, 3 laser headlamps from outside the host body entered the foot and incinerated the ringworms. Sasha and the others were exhausted from the intense fight, but they were quickly ordered by the command center to confront more ringworms in other parts of the body. Johnny chose to go above and beyond, delivering more oxygen than he typically would. However, he quickly tired out and vented his frustration on Adam. Ken stepped in, taking Johnny to a hidden spot, where he explained the potential health risks of overworking. Looking out at the horizon, Johnny realized he couldn't bear the weight of their world alone. He understood he needed to contribute to their survival, but also take time to unwind occasionally. The next day, Johnny returned to work in a better mood and apologized to Adam for his previous tantrum. A veteran red blood cell alerted them to a crisis in the stomach that needed many hands to deliver as much oxygen as possible. So, Johnny and Ken headed straight there, leaving the newcomer behind. The head gastric cell revealed the perilous nature of their mission to the red blood cells. He explained that the stomach walls had been compromised, and their task was to ensure it received sufficient oxygen, while also supplying oxygen to the gastric cells repairing it. Ken was skeptical about the head gastric cell's claims, but Johnny reassured him they were true, and they braced themselves for the worst. Suddenly, the stomach's roof cracked open, releasing hot and lethal gastric acid onto 2 unsuspecting red blood cells. The head gastric cell rushed to their aid, but the acid had already inflicted irreparable damage. Witnessing this, Ken was terrified for his own safety and fled in fear. The stomach walls kept deteriorating under the gastric acid's heat, and the head gastric cell worried that the enemy was stronger than they had anticipated. Nevertheless, the red blood cells persisted, continuing to deliver oxygen to the stomach. Ken managed to overcome his fears and returned to the stomach to help the other red blood cells. When Johnny questioned his earlier departure, Ken fibbed, saying he needed a break for lunch. Suddenly, a powerful earthquake rocked the entire stomach, and a massive Dragon H. pylori rose from the acidic depths. The chief gastric cell informed Johnny and Ken that this dragon was responsible for the recent stomach attacks. It had survived in the stomach by using an enzyme called urease to create a protective barrier, making it immune to the gastric acid's effects. Sasha and the other white blood cells arrived to defeat the enemy, but their weapons were ineffective against the dragon. Sasha and the white blood cells launch a full-on battle, shaking the ground with their fight. The acid splashes, taking Ken down in the process. John goes berserk, refusing to believe Ken's gone. A wise old cell, Gassic Cell, calms him down, explaining that Ken won't be coming back. The body takes some outside help, and the white blood cells win the war against the bacteria. Everyone celebrates, but John's lost his spark. He blames himself for Ken's death, locking himself away from the world. One day, a giant crystal appears in the body's big toe. The white blood cells, always on guard, attack it like it's a monster, but they only manage to hurt the area around it, making things worse. John, meanwhile, wanders around like a lost soul, eventually finding himself in Ken's old stomping grounds. He falls deeper into his guilt, begging the spleen to end his misery. But the spleen, a tough cookie, tells him to get back to work. The body needs him. Meanwhile, the cells figure out the crystal is uric acid, the culprit behind a gnarly case of gout. Out of nowhere, John comes charging in, acting like a total jerk. He starts yelling at the cells to ditch this body, claiming it's a bottomless pit of trouble. He's all, "Why work our tails off for a human who treats us like garbage?" Sasha sees him losing it and throws her arms around him, trying to snap him out of it. She whispers that Ken's death wasn't his fault and they gotta keep going for their fallen friends. John's tough facade crumbles and he breaks down in tears. It's a wake-up call. The body takes some meds called colchicine to chill out the gout and heal the wounds. But then, bad news strikes again. Clogged up blood vessels, stuffed with cholesterol and clots, become the new roadblocks. It's like rush hour in rush hour. But Sasha's words get to John. He's fired up again, training newbies and leading deliveries. He's back to being the red blood cell boss. But the trouble keeps mounting. The main blood highway, the coronary artery, gets completely blocked, starving the heart of oxygen. It's heart attack time. Brain cells panic, calling a press conference, well kinda, telling everyone to stop working, the body's toast. The heart stutters, then silence. It's lights out. But John, fueled by his newfound purpose, refuses to give up. He's on a mission to find even a tiny bit of oxygen, a spark to kickstart that heart. Meanwhile, the body gets some CPR, sending shaky jolts to the heart. John gets back and checks the situation. They stick a fancy metal straw, a stent, into the clogged artery. Blood flow resumes, and the red blood cells are back on delivery duty, making sure every cell gets its oxygen fix. Things start looking up for everyone. Brain HQ makes a major life change, tossing out the smokes, saying no to booze, and ditching the junk food. A healthy brain means a healthy body, and everyone's workload gets lighter. The pipes even start sparkling. One day, while making his rounds, John catches Sasha mid-air. She just took down a nasty germ in a rooftop battle, but it knocked her off her feet. As they walk together, trading hero stories and swooning over each other, bam! A needle jabs into the bloodstream, sucking out red blood cells like a milkshake machine. John and Sasha wake up with a jolt, staring in horror. They're in a new body, and it's in worse condition than the old one. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and see you on the next episode. Love you guys.